Welcome back, scholars, to our Digital Academy. I am Professor Spark. Whether we are turning the pages of a timeless novel, our mission remains the same. Will today's sweep us into the concert hall? Let's find out together.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the infectious, intellectual exuberance of Johann Sebastian Bach's absolute most joyful creation, the Brandenburg Concerto No. 3 in G major. We're going to break down the exact mechanics of its brilliance. I mean, this piece is just a masterclass in clarity, invention, and pure auditory pleasure. By the time we're done here, you're going to understand exactly how Bach engineered this architecture of joy. And just like Bach gave his listeners perfect structural order, we're following a super clear agenda today. We'll start with the blueprint of joy, move right into his radical democratic ensemble, break down the three movements, uncover the philosophy in sound, and then wrap up with the ultimate performance you really need to hear. So, let's kick things off with Section 1, the Blueprint of Joy, Synthesizing Styles. To really understand this blueprint, we've got to step back to 1721. Now, this concerto is actually one of 6 famous works dedicated to the Margrave of Brandenburg. And here's the kicker. It was essentially an unsuccessful job application by Bach. No way, right? He wrote it while working in Kärnten, which was a court that had some truly top-tier instrumentalists. Having those elite musicians on hand gave Bach the freedom to just completely push musical boundaries. How? By synthesizing 2 totally distinct styles. On one hand, you've got this heavy Italian influence. He's borrowing Vivaldi's ritornello form, that recurring musical theme alternating with different episodes, along with all that dazzling virtuosity and bright optimistic energy. But then, he merges that with his native German influence. We're talking profound contrapuntal depth, highly rational architecture, and some seriously intricate imitation. He basically smashed these 2 together to create the absolute pinnacle of the Baroque concerto style. Italian flair meets German depth to create something entirely new. All right, moving right along to Section 2, a democratic ensemble, the Concerto Grosso. Let's explore the radical musical machinery Bach actually used to generate all this unbridled energy. You see, instead of writing a standard concerto, which, let's be honest, is basically a strict lecture by one solo instrument backed up by an orchestra, Bach wrote what's called a concerto grosso. If you're not familiar, a concerto grosso is a Baroque setup where the musical material is passed dynamically between a group of soloists and the larger ensemble. There is no single dominant star here. Think of it like a really vibrant, democratic dinner party conversation. Everyone at the table trades roles, taking turns speaking and listening, rather than just one person hogging the floor the entire night. And the crucial detail here really comes down to a single number, 9. That number literally drives this entire democratic display. Bach scored this concerto in a super unusual way for 9 distinct solo string players. Throughout the whole piece, these 9 musicians are constantly weaving in and out of the spotlight. They're functioning as both the dazzling soloists and the supportive ensemble players at the exact same time. It's this incredible constant trading of roles that makes the counterpoint just pop. So, how did he organize them? Well, Bach arranged those 9 strings with some profound symmetry. He divided them into 3 distinct groups of 3. You've got 3 violins handling those bold, leaping melodies and rapid imitations. Then 3 violas weaving this wonderfully rich harmonic interplay. And finally, 3 cellos driving the rhythms and laying down the foundational bass. Oh, and of course, the basso continuo, that's your violon and harpsichord, is supporting them underneath. But this 3x3 division is what perfectly cements that idea of unity in diversity. These distinct groups are sharing the musical material totally equally, which creates a brilliantly rich conversational texture. That brings us to Section 3, the 3 movements, fast, slow, fast. Now that we've got a handle on the ensemble playing the notes, let's look at the physical architecture of the piece itself. The concerto follows your classic Baroque fast, slow, fast structure. It opens up with the allegro, which is just incredibly vibrant, optimistic, and packed with leaping motifs passed at lightning speed among the string groups. It's intellectually stimulating, but honestly, it's just pure exuberance. Then we hit the adagio, and this acts as a sudden, incredibly brief pause. Finally, we close out with a second allegro, a vigorous, driving, almost dance-like finale. The intricate interplay here is off the charts, and it leaves you totally exhilarated with a very satisfying affirmative close. But if you actually listen to the piece and pay attention to the pacing of that middle section, a massive question comes up. What exactly happened to the second movement? It's famously missing. In fact, it is so short that if you aren't paying close attention, you might completely miss it, right between those 2 massive high-energy allegros. Well, the answer lies in a really fascinating musical concept. That second movement? It literally consists of just 2 chords. 2! It's what's called a Phrygian cadence. It acts as this poignant, incredibly brief pause that was fully intended to be filled by a cadenza. And a cadenza, for those who might not know, is just a performer's spontaneous improvisation. Bach intentionally slows our racing heartbeat down, leaving us with this deliberate, introspective silence. He actually wanted the harpsichordist or the violinist to take that breath, step up, and fill it with absolute improvisational freedom before launching us back into that final energetic burst. It's a brilliant move that highlights the importance of silence, contrast, and performer creativity in Baroque music.
All right, Section 4, Philosophy and Sound, the meaning behind the math.
You see, this intricate musical structure is actually building a much larger worldview. Bach wasn't just writing pretty notes here, he was quite literally encoding philosophy into sound. First off, this piece perfectly embodies the music of the spheres, that grand Baroque ideal of cosmic balance where individual voices contribute to a greater unified whole. Second, his total obsession with the number 3, remember those 3 groups of 3 strings? That strongly evokes Trinitarian symbolism and the kind of numerical perfection that Bach just absolutely loved. Third, it really celebrates human cooperation and democratic harmony. Because there's no profound melancholy here, the equal sharing of the melodies gives the whole piece a uniquely uplifting, optimistic feel. And finally, it merges rational order, that strict, rule-bound counterpoint, with joyful, unbridled invention. It's deeply rooted in Lutheran notions of disciplined praise, but it aligns so beautifully with early Enlightenment ideals too. Honestly, the core takeaway of this entire masterpiece can be summarized in just 3 words: unity in diversity. The individual lines are distinct, yet they are perfectly integrated. They mirror ideals of society, faith, or the universe itself as a harmonious system. This concerto isn't just math translated into sound. It's a sonic representation of a perfectly harmonious and optimistic universe. Bach is basically showing us that distinct individuals can come together to create a society, or a faith, or a universe that is both deeply balanced and joyfully integrated. And that brings us to our final section, number 5, the ultimate performance, experiencing the joy. So how exactly should we be listening to this centuries-old burst of vitality today? To truly hear the exquisite ensemble camaraderie that Bach intended, you've got to check out the performance by the ensemble Voices of Music. You can easily pull up their 4K performance online. Why this specific one? Well, because it's an absolutely outstanding, historically informed period instrument performance. The sheer clarity and vitality they bring out of those period instruments is amazing. It makes the complex layers of those 9 distinct strings crystal clear. It is deeply satisfying and, for sure, an absolute must-watch if you really want to appreciate the genius of this concerto. As we wrap up this explainer on Bach's Architecture of Joy, I want to leave you with a lingering thought. How can you find, and maybe even foster, unity and diversity in your own modern world? Bach showed us over 3 centuries ago that we really don't need a single dominant star to create something beautiful. We just need distinct voices, perfectly integrated in a shared purpose. Think about where you can apply that kind of harmonious cooperation in your own life today. Thank you so much for joining me in this exploration. I really hope this explainer brings a little more joy and structure to your day. Catch you next time.